Hi everyone, this is Souji. Thanks for tuning in to Season 2, which is my trip to Sydney and New Zealand. When I first landed, I went straight to Circular Quay and the Sydney Opera House. This is my favorite spot in all of Sydney, which is super stereotypical, but it always brings back fond memories of the last 2 times I visited Australia. I got a hotel close to downtown called the Sydney Boulevard Hotel, which is your average hotel, nothing too fancy, but it was cheap and it was in a great area. My first evening there, I went with a friend to Newtown and he showed me around the new subway system that was built, and we also got to see the Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Sydney Opera House in the evening. My second day in the city, I met up with some friends to get some amazing Hunan Chinese food and then did a wine tour where they basically brought in the wines from the Barossa Valley near Adelaide and were doing like a 2-hour wine tasting in Sydney so I wouldn't have to go anywhere. One of the wines I got to try was the famous Obama wine, which is what he had during one of the previous summits in Australia. I got lucky that as I met up with my sister at Circular Quay, one of the cruise ships was leaving, and I love cruise ships, so I was privileged to be able to watch this whole sail away with the Sydney Harbour Bridge as the backdrop. I'm really hitting all the tourist spots at this point. On the third day, I went to Bondi Beach, which was near where I used to live when I studied abroad in Sydney, so it was really nice to just experience Aussie beach culture and during Christmas time as well. For dinner, we had some fancy Greek food in the rocks with a beautiful view of the Sydney Harbour and the Sydney Opera House again. On the 4th day, we went to Taronga Zoo. Despite this being my 3rd time in Australia, this was the first time I've ever been to the zoo. We started off with a hearty breakfast in Sydney. This is the first time that I discovered Aussie cafe culture, and every breakfast I had here was amazing. At the zoo, we got to see a bunch of Australian animals, like, of course, koalas and kangaroos and big emus and cassowaries. We met up with another friend who lives near Watson's Bay and got to see the sunset in Sydney from Watson's Bay, which, as you can see, is probably one of the best views of the city in the evening. It's also by the ocean, so we got to see the water hitting the rocks as the sun slowly descended over the horizon. On day 5, another old favorite, walking from Coogee Beach to Bondi Beach. This is one of the famous walks in Sydney. And I used to live down at Maroubra Beach, which is also along this same coastline but further down. This walk always has insanely picturesque views as you're passing 4 or 5 different smaller beaches to get from Coogee to Bondi. After the walk, we went to go see a show at the Sydney Opera House. This is the Dungeons and Dragons show, and my friend thought it was ironic that while it plays in New York, where I live, I flew all the way to Sydney, Australia to see it with her. We ended with the classic Aussie dish of pavlova, although there is a bit of a debate about whether Australia or New Zealand invented it. My final day in Australia before heading off to New Zealand, I took it easy, got some vegan Vietnamese food in their Chinatown, and then got one of the signature Thai massages that Sydney is famous for. Although I guess Thailand is famous for it as well, but I've never been to Thailand. I've gotten all my Thai massages here in Sydney.